Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back from our week-off hiatus to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. This is December 30th, Monday, episode 159. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year coming up on Wednesday. Guys, what's going on?
Happy holidays.
You're looking
Merry
at my
Christmas.
shirt.
Happy New Year.
I'm going to try and have a really unbiased discussion later about the Texas ASU game as I wear
It's going to be a rout.
ASU shirt. Okay.
That was fast.
Yeah, right.
Actually, yeah, we expect you to be completely biased because I'm pretty sure Don and I will be on the other side of it.
All right, cool. I can argue my side first.
That's right.
Perfect. Chuck, you came back from vacation. How was the Great White North?
It was great.
Great White and North?
Yes. Montreal and Quebec. Quebec, eh? No, I'm really surprised myself with all this, just how really clueless I was that there could be that much of a culture change within a 40-mile radius of the United States. It's really fascinating. Didn't know anything about Montreal or Quebec, but two really fantastic places to visit. People are nice, great things to look at, a lot of European influence. Very, very beautiful part of the country.
Only Chuck Miketinac and his family are going to Canada for the winter. It's
Like I would love to go to Montreal, but I would go in June.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, why did you? It was winter. I was like, you looked really cold in the picture that you posted on Instagram. It looked freezing.
It was cold. It never got above 20 degrees.
Sounds like a vacation.
The beautiful thing was there wasn't a lot of wind, so it was manageable.
Well, I mean, you like Green Bay and all that stuff, so
Yeah.
you've lived in that before.
As long as you're prepared for it mentally and then act accordingly with layers, you're good.
2018 Super Bowl, we went to Minneapolis for a week, and the high was 4 all week.
Ugh.
They'll never have a Super Bowl there again.
Don,
I thought I was going to die.
How was? Okay, dramatic.
I thought.
How was
let me tell you
how was
this.
your Christmas?
They had the media. Let me just tell you this real fast. They had the media center at the Mall of America, which is a famous place in Minneapolis. And they had redone it, and that's where they had all the press conferences and everything. And so it's a mall, right? It's a giant mall, but it's a mall. We parked our
More than
car
just a mall, yeah.
literally within 100 yards, about 100 yards of the car to the door. And I walked from the car to the door, and in that walk, the juice in my eyeballs froze.
Okay.
Okay? So my eyes stuck.
That's what we call painting a picture, Matthew.
Okay. Very vivid.
It was awful. And my nose was running. And the guy said, don't blow it because the mucous membrane's frozen in there. You have to go inside for a few minutes and let it thaw out. Otherwise, if you mess with your nose with it frozen, your mucous membranes will come out.
I'm going to mute your mic.
ENT talk.
Done with this story.
It was awful. Your eyeball juice was frozen.
Anyway, so Minnesota's cold. Got it. How was your Christmas? Christmas week?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Lots of family, lots of fun, beautiful, lots of great food. I've got to get on a diet. It's overate like crazy.
Yeah, same. Fun fact, I'm wearing this shirt because it was really funny. My wife's dad, and one of her brothers all got me the exact same shirt.
Really?
They did not talk to each other at all, apparently, and they all got me the exact same shirt. So I'm keeping 2 of them, and Jordan's
Is that a
sending
medium?
it.
Is that a medium?
Yes, exactly. They all got me the exact same style, exact same size, exact same shirt. It was really, really funny. So,
This DNA thing's a real thing.
I know.
Man.
Right?
They make a.
There's 10 to 4. There was like 10 to 12 different Big 12 championship shirts. They all chose the same style. It was really funny.
I didn't know they went up to like Sasquatch.
Yeah, they make triple XLs. I got a quad. You know.
Quad.
Just kidding. No, it's a regular
huge.
XL, guys. All right.
Extra huge.
Anyway, we got a lot to talk about, so let's get to the action here. Before we get started, do want to remind everyone to subscribe to the YouTube channel, News4 Fox SA. If you're so inclined, download, rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy, do all those good things. Spurs fell back to 500 last night with a loss, pretty encouraging loss, I would say, to the Timberwolves. Lost 112 to 110. I don't know if the last shot you won in the game is Jeremy hucking up a 3 when you have a wide-open Harrison Barnes in the corner, but I digress. Once again, though, Stephon Castle's minutes were dwindling. 8 minutes for the rookie last night, which I think is a season low. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's one of his lowest usage rates of the entire season. Ever since Devin Vassell came back, his minutes have been dwindling, so we'll talk about if they should be getting the rookie on the court a little bit more. Plus, De'Aaron Fox on the trade block, it seems, could be a target for the Spurs. How much would it take? Is that something we would want to see? We'll talk about that coming up. Plus, the Cowboys lost to the Eagles yesterday. They fall to 7-9, securing their first losing record since 2020. Their fourth losing record in the last 20 years, so not something they do very often. I'll ask the question, are they closer to a rebuild or a Super Bowl? Something that be considered here with the way this season is going. Go over some New Year's resolutions. What should be the Spurs' New Year's resolution for 2025? What should be the Cowboys' New Year's resolution for 2025? And the Longhorns playing Arizona State on Wednesday in the college football playoff quarterfinals in the Peach Bowl. If they lose, was the season a failure? Plus, give the his face.
Failure.
Plus our thoughts on the college football playoffs so far, and I made a really shocking Christmas movie revelation over the holidays that I just have to get off my chest. So we'll talk about all that. No trivia because we have so much going on. Let's start with the Spurs. Castle once again seeing his minutes diminished. 8 minutes last night against the Timberwolves. Since Devin Vassell's return, the former NBA Rookie of the Year frontrunner, averaging only 8 points, 2.4 rebounds, 3.4 assists. All of those averages down significantly since Vassell returned. He's fallen to third best odds for the Rookie of the Year. Don, I know you feel strongly about this, so I'll start with you. Should they be getting Castle on the court more, and should they figure out a way for Vassell and him to play together?
Well, they were better as a team when he started and played 28 minutes, and he was averaging 15 and 6 and whatever, and was Rookie of the Year candidate for sure. It's tough, and Mitch is basically saying they're experimenting right now. Jeremy was out with a thumb. Devin was out with his thing. They're both getting minutes. They're trying to get Champagnie minutes. There's too many minutes or too few minutes to go around. As he said, it's a good problem to have. I think they're making a mistake with the wrong guy taking the brunt of it. When his minutes go down to 17 versus 28, his numbers have gone way down. And last night he was bad. I mean, I'm not going to take up for the guy last night. He had a really bad game. He had 4 brutal turnovers. He missed a couple of shots, and they pulled him and went away from him early and went the rest of the way without him. But that's just an aberration. He's going to get better. The reason I want him to play more minutes is because I think it's better short-term and, more importantly, it's better long-term. He's a rookie. He's going to be the point guard of this team going forward. I think you sacrifice a few Champagnie minutes and a few Devin minutes in order to get his back up to where they were, because I think he proved in that bit that you can play through mistakes if you're out there longer and through some stretches. And he does a really good job of finding his teammates. He's a really good on-ball defender. And I know you got to have the three-point shooting from Champagnie, but they've lost more, and they seem a little more out of sync with him having his minutes diminished.
Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they are experimenting with rotations, and they have a lot of guys that play similarly, and I think they have a lot of guys that have earned the right to be on the floor. So they're trying to find the right combinations at the right time. All I know is if they play like they played last night in the first quarter, sign me up for more of that. The energy was amazing. The ball was moving. Remember, we even said out loud, it looked like they had Minnesota on skates that whole first quarter. And then things tightened up. You know, they weren't scoring the ball, obviously, in the second quarter. But if the energy is good and guys are attempting to play team basketball with all the movement and all the cutting and the three-point shooting, then I can live with whoever the hell's on the floor. I really don't care at this point. They're trying to figure out what are the best combinations now, and I think they're close, you know? And so, yeah, there are going to be some stubbing of the toes along the way. Last night's a prime example. That was, you know, I think for a lot of stretches, they were easily the better team last night, and it just didn't turn out in their favor. And you could say, well, I'm blaming the coach because he was playing this guy at this certain time. I think this is all part of the plan to see what this is all going to look like in terms of rotations in the second half of the season.
Yeah, and you spoke of the first quarter against Minnesota. That was probably one of their best quarters of the season.
Yeah,
then you look at the first quarter against the Blazers. They scored 11 points. They scored 6 points in the first 2 minutes of the game. Did not score until a heave from Keldon Johnson to end the first quarter. It was probably the worst first quarter. So it's really a Jekyll and Hyde when you look at this team and the consistency that they put forward. I would also question, though, are they potentially playing guys, a Julian, a Jeremy more, other guys more to show, maybe boost trade value in a potential? Because that all of these guys are not going to be on the roster forever. Like, this is not going to be the end-all team, the team that brings a championship back to San Antonio. You have to figure out who exactly is going to contribute. Maybe they know what they have in Stephon Castle, and they're trying to get other guys minutes to say, okay, is he going to be part of the future or not?
I don't think – I mean, that certainly happens in the NBA. I don't think that's the case here. I think this is a young team, a young coach trying to figure out the best combinations. And I think it comes from on high from Brian and Pop of what they're going to want to do. And I'm just surprised. I thought that Castle had made enough. Of course, he is a rookie. And, of course, he has struggled at times. But yeah, I think there's a lot in play here too, because the statistics and the analytics and all that. You have to have 3-point shooting, and Champagnie gives you that. But he also gives you so many other problems defensively, decision making. He had those 2 awful turnovers that cost him a game.
He's not a good enough 3-point shooter to justify the minutes he's playing if you're just solely basing it on his 3-point shooting.
Which means that Castle and these other guys need to get better at shooting threes, and they will. And there will be some moves made because they just have a log jam on the roster at that point. And I'm not saying that they're not doing that. I've been around the NBA long enough to know that kind of stuff happens maybe for a week right near the trade deadline, but most teams don't go about their business this early trying to shop guys by giving them extra minutes.
Well, let me ask you this, Chuck. Is Devin Vassell a benefit to this team or more of a detriment to the development of some of the younger guys? Is Devin Vassell a key contributor long-term for this team?
That's a fair question, and to answer, I really don't know at this point because, there were times when this team was really playing well when you could argue, their 2 other highest-paid guys weren't playing. So part of this transition is also for Devin Vassell, right? He's got to learn to play with other guys, when to move the ball, when to drive, when to kick, when to take it all the way to the hole, all of those different things. So some of this is like we're not changing the system to benefit a guy. We're running our system. Our system will benefit everybody, and some of this is on Devin to learn how to play well with others as well.
And I love Chris Paul's role in that. Chris Paul is not afraid to tell Devin, to call him out. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm a fan of Devin. He's way too talented to be considered a detriment. To your point, though, sometimes he's a ball stopper, and he'll over dribble and he'll force bad shots. I've been a critic of his as well, but he's way too talented to be considered a detriment. He's the Spurs' second best player at this point. Castle will pass him up in time, but I think if they have 3 untouchables, and I'm not sure they do.
I think they have 2.
I think they have 2. But he would be the 3rd if they do have 3, and they like him a lot. He just has to learn, and I think he is. And thank goodness there's guys like Chris Paul to keep him in check, because Devin Vassell unchecked will be Dominique Wilkins.
What is his? Is he a low IQ player, or is he just not taking the coaching? Like why does he continue? I mean, if you're going to talk about who's like earned more bench time, I can't see anybody in the team more than him. He seems to screw up things on the court in my eyes, and more than anybody else. So what
more
is
than Zach?
Besides Zach.
Well, right.
I don't know. I like Devin. I think he's a bucket. In this league, you have to have a guy who's a walking bucket. Look at the end of the Knicks game and Mikal Bridges, how he took over that game. Look at Ant, how he took over the Houston game. You have to have a guy who can take over on the perimeter and create shots and clear out, and this guy's going to get you the game winner. Devin is the only guy on the Spurs roster who has that physical makeup. Wemby is not there yet as far as ISO, go to him, and guaranteed bucket.
My problem with Devin, and I like Devin a lot. I think he's a really talented player. I think he at times meshes well with this roster. However, I think Devin thinks he's the Aaron Fox, and he's not.
Agreed.
Devin thinks he's up here when he's really a tier B kind of player.
Agreed.
He thinks he's a tier A player, and that's kind of my issue with him sometimes. Is you guys let me handle this, and he can't handle it sometimes. You know what I mean?
Agreed, but I'd rather him have that mentality than be hesitant.
Amen. I mean,
Fair
you
enough.
have to have got to have a little of the dog in you. I mean,
But they do-
It's easier to reel that in, I would think, than to make somebody go that
But they
way.
got to get Steph on the court. Like
True.
This team is going to go as far as the younger guys like Steph and Wemby take them. Steph has to develop, because if he is that untouchable player that you will not trade under any circumstances, like Wemby is, then he has to be a guy that you're continuing to develop on the court, and we have to see that development. You can't stunt that growth with somebody, no matter who it is, getting on the court ahead of him.
I'm all for that. More
So,
minutes for Steph Castle.
This does lead to a discussion about trades, though. Mike Brown fired in Sacramento. We can. That was a Sacramento decision. If you ask Mike Malone, I don't think anybody liked the decision or knew that one was coming with Mike Brown fired. He was basically fired over alleged issues with De'Aaron Fox, I guess. They were talking at practice, so you can take that for what it's worth.
Fox denies it.
Yeah, Fox denies it. Then apparently there was reports that Fox asked for a trade. He's denying that too. The organization's denying that as well. But that leads us to the Spurs being connected to De'Aaron Fox, because the Spurs are going to be connected to anybody because of all the assets that they have. They have young talent, and they have a crap ton of picks. So I've seen you go back and forth with a couple of people on Twitter about this, so I'll start with you. De'Aaron Fox, yes, the right player, no, the right player, and what's the price that you would pay?
Yes, the right player at the right price.
What's the right price?
Okay. Look at recent history. Rudy Gobert went to Minnesota.
This mic gets closer to you every 2 minutes.
Rudy Gobert went to Minnesota. Utah got 5 first-rounders and a couple players.
That was an overpay.
Mikal Bridges, who looked very much worth it the other night against the Spurs,
Right.
went from Brooklyn to New York for like 5 number ones and 2 players.
And De'Aaron Fox is a better player than both of them.
I think he's very much on the same level as Bridges for sure, right? If you were to tell me that the Spurs are going to give 5 number ones and a couple of players, one of those players could not be Steph Castle. And I'm not sure about 4 number ones. And I've been told that that's way too high a price tag based on the leverage that Fox now has after turning down the extension and is going to be a free agent soon. I don't know if it's the end of this year or into next year. I think it's the end of next year. But they're going to want to get something back in return, and they're not going to have the leverage to ask for 4 or 5 number ones plus Devin and Sohan, or Devin and Castle, or even Castle and 4 number ones. But if the price was 3 number ones and Sohan, yes.
The trade work. So I was playing around with the trade machine a little earlier, just playing with the money, and it helps that De'Aaron Fox is not a very expensive player at this moment. Right now, he's on a $34 million deal for this year. He has a $38 million for next year. He's a 27-year-old point guard, so he's only on a second deal. So his max is going to come after next season. So you have to kind of factor all that into trading for him, because if you're going to trade 5 number ones and Devin Vassell or whoever it is, you have to factor in the max contract that you're going to be giving De'Aaron Fox next year.
Sure.
So trading Devin for De'Aaron Fox, you would have to add in maybe a Sohan. You would have to add in somebody with like a $7 million cap hit. That basically equates out to Sohan or Malachi or Stephon Castle or someone like that. If you're going to trade for more than that, then you have to play around. My trade thing, though, is 5 number ones and Devin Vassell. Who says no?
That seems high, but
Yeah, it seems high to me, too.
but it's the market value,
But
right?
you have-
if you look at the Bridges trade.
But you have so many. Like, I have some of them.
Depends
right?
on which number ones they are, right?
Okay, yeah, if you're gonna-
if they're not Atlanta's unprotected next year.
If you're going to give up Atlanta's 2025, Atlanta's not going to have the first pick in the draft. They're better than that this year.
I know.
So
it depends on the price. Bottom line is it depends on the price. But the other thing to consider is if Rich Paul did indeed meet with Monty, the GM in Sacramento, and is finagling this, as Rich Paul often does, and if De'Aaron Fox is one of those, a coach killer, and a manipulator with his agent making these calls, getting Mike Brown fired, then you got to really look at who De'Aaron Fox is, and I'm sure the Spurs will do their due diligence. He's married to Rasee Caldwell, a local women's basketball star here in San Antonio, whose dad is the OG women's basketball AAU coach in town. So he's got ties to San Antonio. If she wanted to come home and she wanted her husband to come with her to San Antonio, there's a way that they could force that trade, but it has to be at the right price.
Chuck, to the coach killing aspect of that, you don't come to the Spurs and kill a coach. Like this is
that ain't happening here.
This is probably the one organization outside of Miami that you could not come and get a coach fired.
And I'm not saying he's that guy.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like,
when
if
I
that's
read
the
that
rumor.
Rich Paul met with management the day that Mike Brown got fired or the day before.
They also have crappy management. Like their owner has done this before. This is their fourth coach since 2016. Sure. Like,
yeah, and I mean, it's strange how everything has changed in this league so quickly, right? Because the superstars are few and far between now. And we saw even with the latest draft, the Spurs weren't even willing to take a guy in the top 10 with one of those first-round picks. So how valuable are those picks? Well, to your point, it now means you got to send 5 of them in order to get the quote-unquote superstar player.
I think that's going to be the asking price, is at least a player in 5 firsts.
To me, I look at this team, I don't think they're far away. With all the assets that they have, man, I'm still playing the long game. I'm just not doing it. There's no reason for them to make this leap right now based on what I see with my own 2 eyes. But they may feel differently, obviously.
That's why
But here's the thing. De'Aaron Fox is the long game. He's 27. He's going to be on your team for the next decade, hopefully. He'll be in his prime for at least the next 5-6 years, which plays into the Wembanyama timeline.
I always go back to, especially with the Spurs thinking, there's only certain guys that are worthy of max contracts. And they look like Tim Duncan. They check every single box. Does this player check every single box? I don't know.
We're not in that NBA anymore, though. Guys get max contracts.
That's true,
for being
but we're talking about the Spurs do
Brian
their business
Scalabrine
differently.
got paid $20 million a year.
But the Spurs do their business a lot different than everybody else.
I'll go back to this. I think, and I was with you when I originally put that tweet out and got killed by Spurs fans. And I'll admit I was wrong because I didn't reconsider that the market that we saw for Bridges and for Gobert and others may not be the same market for Fox because of his leverage. In other words, the Kings might have to take less for otherwise not get anything back in return if he just decides to play it out and be a free agent. So if it's 3 number ones and Devin, yes. If it's 4 or 5 number ones and 2 players, I really have to consider it. Because you got to remember, Castle might be better than De'Aaron Fox. In time, Castle looks to be the real deal. So it's a delicate thing of what the price is.
They also have their contracts are a little weird. The only other guy that really works, because you're not going to trade Sabonis, obviously, is Kevin Huerter. And I think that he could actually help the Spurs a lot, too, in terms of the three-point shooting aspect of it. So let me just pose this trade to you. Kevin Huerter and De'Aaron Fox for Devin Vassell, Zach Collins, and Jeremy Sohan in 4 number ones.
It's too high.
I think that works, and I think that's great.
It's too high because the longer this goes, the more leverage Fox has.
I say if I'm the Spurs, keep racking those assets. Every year you've got fresh assets. You go into an offseason with those.
You're not going to make all those picks, though. You have 14 number 1 picks in the next 6 years.
Right.
3 number ones, and they're not the Atlanta number ones, yes.
What about 4 number 1s and one of them's an Atlanta number 1?
No. No. I love Fox, too.
I do, too. Who doesn't?
I think that he could be the missing piece. Like I think that highly of De'Aaron Fox.
I do, too.
He is a phenomenal, in his prime, point guard that could take this team to the heights that they think that they can reach.
But if you're the Spurs, you can drag this out. You can continue with Chris Paul for the rest of this season, even next season.
I'm not saying that.
Chris Paul. You could tell Rich Paul and Fox, you really want to come to San Antonio because your wife lives here. Just go into free agency.
God, now he's a 29 point guard, and you're not getting his prime. I mean, you're getting a little bit of the prime, but
you're just missing out on this year and next.
All right. Well, let's get to the Cowboys real quick. So, already going a little long. Cowboys lose to the Eagles last
Well,
night.
you got
Or,
War and Peace here, my friend. I mean, this is
This is
Tolstoy-esque.
We've been off for a week.
Okay.
I have a lot of things to say. Jordan's sick of talking to me about this
that's
stuff.
fair.
So the Cowboys lose yesterday, 41-17 in a game that it wasn't even that close. It was pretty much over from the first drive when Cooper Rush threw a pick. So they're going to finish at least with at least 9 wins, maybe 8 and 9, 7 and 10, which would be spot on for your prediction there. I think, Don. I think you predicted the 7 and 10.
I think Washington's going to hose me because they're not going to play anybody.
Yeah, probably
Now
not.
that they've clinched.
So it was a season. It was a season with a few bright spots, but one that was mired in incompetence and inconsistency and injuries.
It's a lot of I words.
I mean, it all just came to my head. So
Be so incessant.
my big question here is: are the Cowboys closer to a rebuild or championship contention? Because they're right in the middle.
I think a lot of this looks like fool's gold this year, right? I mean, to think that they were able to cobble together the last 6 weeks like they have with that roster, sure, gives you a lot of hope, right? That if nothing else, you're going to have a really deep team next year with a lot of guys that have, really showed out. But there are a lot of these guys whose contracts are up that are now going to command dollars because they extended the value of their current contract. So a lot of these guys that are playing really well right now are going to be able to go get another job somewhere else next year, and you're not going to have those guys. I mean, I believe Jordan Lewis is working on a 1-year deal, right? Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't want that guy on your team?
Including maybe Mike McCarthy.
Right. So
Mike McCarthy's going to field other
So I don't know.
offers,
To me, it feels closer to a rebuild in a lot of ways, but I just whatever they were this year, I was just full of amazement and surprised that they were able to play and be as competitive as they were down the stretch. Did not see that coming. I thought this was going to be a disaster when everybody started going down.
I think you can make the argument that they're already in a rebuild. If you look at their roster and you look at the guys on the field, I'm looking at the program trying to figure out who these guys are. I mean, who's Booth?
Andrew Booth was traded by the Vikings.
Anyway,
in the training camp.
Mingo and Booth and
Pride.
all these guys on the it's like no, I was a Lone Ranger here going into the season thinking they were a bad football team.
Hey, I said they were a bad football
And
team.
to Chuck's point, they were better. They played, and this is why McCarthy probably deserves another contract. They played way better than their talent, and but no, this team is nowhere near a Super Bowl contender.
But can you be a rebuilding team with the highest paid player in the NFL history, the second highest paid wide receiver
That's
in NFL
what's going to make
history?
that difficult, right?
Like, how can you say that a team is going into a rebuild or is retooling or is doing any of those things and is not a championship contender when you have 2 of the 3 highest paid players in the entire league? Like,
it's Jerry, man. It's star power, and we just beat this horse to death in the off season, and it right up until day 1 of the season is like Jerry says we're all in. We're going to roll the dice. We're going to make them prove it. Dak could get hurt. He could do this, and then the day before the season, game day of the season opener, he announces this $200 million contract. And had he done what he said he was going to do and had everything transpired the same way, would he give Dak Prescott that same contract today with a hammy being torn off the bone, with him being going into year 9, seeing that they could go almost 500 with Cooper Rush, knowing that they have no running game, no offensive line, all these kind of things? Would he have spent his money differently had he just stuck to his guns instead of bowed to giving Dak that deal? And I don't think Cooper Rush is your franchise quarterback. But if you were to tell me going into this season that Dak wouldn't play a single game, Cooper Rush would be your starting quarterback all season long, and you'd have Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry or Joe Mixon, another receiver and another star offensive lineman, would the Cowboys be better? I think you could make the argument that a more well-rounded team without a $60 million quarterback. Look at Sam Darnold making $10 million in Minnesota. Look at Baker Mayfield on that 1-year deal last year in Tampa Bay making $6 million. You can get it done without the $60 million quarterback.
Well, Baker's also now making a $30 million
Yeah.
instead. So and he's probably a top 10 quarterback in the league right now. He had a hell of a day yesterday against the Panthers.
Yeah,
So
5 TD passes.
yeah, I mean it was insane. I think they're closer to a rebuild as well. I just don't know how you can say I don't know how you can rebuild with the contracts that they have.
Well,
on the books.
it's really weird to look at the whole thing, right? Because it's like I shouldn't say everybody because they were nicked up at the beginning of the year too, but when they were their healthiest, you could argue they didn't play their best. When they've been at their most diseased state, they've cobbled together a pretty good season.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys were all on the roster. So how does that look while you're building towards something if everybody's healthy? I don't know. It's going to be really hard for these guys to assess, I think, where they're at based on the performance level of some of these backups.
They
going
just
down
got
the
cooked
stretch.
by Kenny Pickett and Tanner McGee. I think that they
gonna
got some bigger issues.
And I will promise you this. Get ready now. Get ready for
Mark the tape.
OTAs. Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are going to sell you. We didn't have Micah. We didn't have Dak. We didn't have Bland. They were all out at different times.
Didn't have DeMarcus
They're already
Lawrence.
saying that.
What's his name? 88
CD.
missed training camp, and the timing was off early in the season. We're going to get these guys together. These are going to be Super Bowl. We will hear it for sure at August training camp that this is a Super Bowl or bust kind of team, and they're a 500 team.
So going to our next topic here, the New Year's resolution aspect of this, I just thought was interesting. What if I was to tell you the Cowboys have a New Year's resolution? What is it? What should they plan for next year? What should they hope to accomplish next year with this team and in this offseason?
Well, I think they should go all in.
They already did that. They can't do it twice.
I don't know. I mean, because I'm looking at like Odigizua, Jordan Lewis, Brock Hoffman, some of these guys that if you don't pay them, they're going to go someplace else, and they're pretty darn good football players. Maybe you've got some money because if Zach Martin retires or whatever, but I think even he's got a cap hit next year. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if my brain's big enough to figure that out at this point.
I guess I would wish for them to blow it up, blow the whole thing up. Coaching staff, eat Dak's money, find a trade for him, blow the whole thing up, start over.
And what about the Spurs? So, and that's really where this question came from for me, is basically because if I was the Spurs, my New Year's resolution would be to find which young players I want on this team. You're not going to keep everybody. Is it Malachi? Is it Wesley? Is it Champagnie? Which of these guys are going to be the key contributors to a championship team, and figure out a destination for the rest of them to go afterwards? That would be my key for 2025 for the Spurs. And that goes for this year and this season and for next season.
I just want max effort from those that are on the court 100% of the time. Play as hard as you can for as long as you can before they sub you out. And play like there are others around you that can make you better and you can make them better.
Yeah, and you know what? Tip of the cap to the whole culture of the Spurs, because these are teams, the kind of teams that fracture because guys are unhappy with their playing time because there's so many guys and not enough minutes to go around, whether it be Malachi sitting down there or Blake sitting down there or Zach sitting down there or now Steph Castle. These guys are all in. They're clapping for each other. They're waving towels. They're together. And you got agents, you got parents, you got all these people saying you need to be playing more and blah, blah, blah. And, it'll be like the Lonnie Walkers of the world. There will be guys that won't stick, that will move on. Malachi looks like they're giving up on him. Blake looks like they might be giving up on him. So those things will happen, especially with their first-round draft picks coming in. A Steph Castle will move out, one of those kind of guys. And so I agree with you. You got to figure out exactly who those guys are.
Let's quickly do college football playoffs because I want to get to the last thing because it's funny. Texas playing Arizona State in the Peach Bowl on Wednesday. Both of you guys think it's going to be a killing. Why?
Texas's defense. It's not common. They play with a physicality and a relentlessness that I don't know that ASU has seen much of this year.
They got probably five first rounders on that defense. They got the Thorpe winner. They got Hill and Simmons are going to be first-round picks. Their interior defensive line, Broughton and those guys, I think they're second in the country against the run. I think Arizona State is good. I think they're too one-dimensional with Scadaboo. I think they're able to shut down Scadaboo. They're able to dominate the game.
I think that the game is closer than a lot of people will think. The Clemson game was a lot closer than a 14-point score. Like they were about to make that a 7-point game until they got stuffed on the goal line. I think that Texas is a really, really, really good football team that turns it on when they have to. So I think that they come out and they might not play their best game. Arizona State, this is their Super Bowl. This is further than anyone thought they were going to make it this year. Their win total was 4.5. Kenny Dillingham's going to pull out all the stops. So I could see this being like a tie game, maybe a 3-point game at halftime, and then the Texas running away with it in the second half kind of thing. But it's going to take Quinn in the offense not to turn the ball over.
Yep.
If you turn the ball over, ASU will take advantage of that with Cam. Scat's going to have his best day and prove why he's a first-round draft pick. And Sam Levitt has said that he wants to prove that he's better than Quinn Ewers is. We're going to see.
Which I thought was interesting, right?
Well, he's a very confident young man. He looks like he's 15, but he's like 20 years old, and he's just
good for him for throwing it out there. I'm glad he's that confident. Now let's go see if it's going to happen.
I can't wait. I'll either be depressed or I'll be happy on Thursday. We'll see.
Hey, it's been a hell of a year, no matter what. I mean, at this point, right? If somebody would have told you would have gotten this far at the beginning of the year, you never would have said.
I can tell you right now, there's no way, no matter what the result is on Wednesday, I will be as upset after what if they lose, even if ASU gets killed on Wednesday. I will not be as upset as I was when the Broncos lost to the Bengals on Saturday. I was inconsolable after that game. So Jordan and I made a really, really interesting revelation on Christmas. Christmas happened. It was just Jordan and I. And so we watched a movie, and we were like, neither of us have really watched.
Movie?
We watched Die Hard.
Okay.
Neither of us have ever watched Die Hard all the way through.
Oh,
all the way through.
I love it. I love it.
So I've seen parts of it. I've seen the Yippee-Ki-Yay. I've seen all that stuff, and my feeling about it was always that it was not a Christmas movie. I've come to the realization that even though I don't want it to be, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And it really hurts me to say that because I don't want it to be a Christmas movie. People are getting their heads blown off, and buildings are catching on fire, and buildings are being exploded. It doesn't have a Christmas vibe, but the key plot point is the Christmas party. It is a Christmas movie.
Now you got to watch
and that's
the second one, right?
There's 4 of them.
Yes, but the second one also is built around the holiday season. So,
do you guys think Die Hard's a Christmas movie?
100%.
Yeah.
Interesting. I just never thought of it that way. I was like, people are getting their heads blown off. Like, why would this be a Christmas movie?
Welcome to the 21st century, dude.
You know, it was
little Matthew just evolved from his cocoon.
I know. It's cute.
Jordan and I were sitting there after we watched the movie, and we were like, damn it. It is a Christmas movie.
the friendship with the cop, the Twinkie eating cop.
Yeah,
it's Christmas.
It changed my whole worldview. Now I might think that the first Lethal Weapon's a Christmas movie. Who knows?
Sleeper for you young folks. Sleeper Christmas movie.
Young folks.
The Family Man with Nicolas Cage and Téa Leoni.
Bob, any take?
Really underrated.
Any take on Die Hard?
I just wanted to wish everybody a very happy National Bacon Day.
Today is National Bacon Day.
Bacon Day, yes.
Oh, wow.
I had turkey bacon this morning. Does that count?
No.
Well,
I don't have any bacon.
Didn't have any back bacon in Canada. Had a lot of maple syrup, though.
Tom's in house.
Shout out Tom Guerrero.
Hey, also shout out Oscar Zamora.
Shout out Oscar
shout out
Zamora.
Oscar.
Last day party at 3 o'clock.
73 years.
What'd you say?
73 years.
What is it, like 37 years?
It's 39,364. He's one day short of being 40 years.
Jesus.
He should stay one more day.
Honestly. I think he's here tomorrow.
He told me on his last day it'll be 364.
Interesting. Anyway, that's all we got for you. I know that was a lot that we crammed into about 35, 40 minutes here. But that's all we got for you today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We'll be back on Thursday to talk about the playoff, Cowboys, Spurs, all that stuff. And remember, forks up, horns down. See you then.
Forks.